They said, we just want to talk to him. So they asked him if he would spy for them and go over to North Kansas City to a mosque. And he called his friend in Washington who was, what was Joe, honey?
Joe McBride.
Joe McBride. What was he?
He's head of the drug enforcement in Afghanistan.
This was a man Chris had met last time he was in Afghanistan. So he called Joe, and Joe said, Chris, don't do it. It'll endanger your family. So Chris didn't do it. But he was very smart to call Joe. We all said, oh, go on. The FBI wants you to do something.
I've known these people for 37 years. It started in 1967. I can't tell you that they're all bad. I can't tell you they're all good. It's like any other place in the world. You've got really sinister people and you've got really good people. It is easier for us as a nation to make it a black and white issue. And I totally understand that. It's very difficult to get a peace-loving man to go out and put on a soldier's uniform and shoot innocent people. So you have to have a mass psychology.
Tell us where you are, John. Look at the camera. Tell us where you are.
I'm in hell. What do you think?
Everyone suggests that when I go to Kandahar, I don't tell anyone I'm from America. And it's really hard for me emotionally and culturally to lie about my heritage. It seems kind of hypocritical on my part to say I'm from Australia or Austria or anywhere but America, but I've been warned more times than I want to tell you that I have to do that if I'm going to go there and survive. I got a feel for it yesterday in Gulistan, a border town that is basically Afghanistan, one mountain range away. I was advised by my protectors not to let anyone know who I really was. For my life, I actually sat down yesterday at lunch with a Al-Qaeda member who was proud of the fact that he was Al-Qaeda. Took his beliefs strongly.
And we're sitting around talking, and this Al-Qaeda guy from Yemen is in the circle of people. And I know he's different. I know he's not wearing the traditional turban, and he's speaking Pashto, but it's not pure Pashto. And he's getting really aggressive. He's taking his AK-47 and pointing it at me. Everybody had an AK-47, but he was pointing it at me, and he wasn't referring to me in person, but he was saying, Al-Qaeda's number one, Al-Qaeda's number one. And so I'm getting this really bad vibe, and so I immediately ask him to bring out the hash pipe. So they bring out the hash pipe, and I'm the only one smoking. They've really stopped the smoking. And the young people didn't. It was just the assassins that really smoked, unless it's a wedding or a big party. So I'm the only one smoking. But anyway, I pull it out, and I figured, a stoned idiot is less of a threat to anybody. So I smoked the pipe, and the young man who's the head of the family. His father's still alive, but he's actively running the family. Tells the Al-Qaeda guy point blank, he says, this guy's been coming to our territory, he's been coming around us since the 70s. We've known him longer than we've known you, and he's a guest. Basically, fuck you, leave him alone. And the Al-Qaeda guy's, really hostile and doesn't know what to do, but can't really do anything. He can't really threaten me. The Muslims, one of the columns or pillars of their religion is to give someone total hospitality. Once you accept them in your home, you literally will die for them. Which is what we're finding out in trying to find bin Laden. These men are willing to die for him. They're willing to stand up and die for him. I met bin Laden in 1984 after the war had started, and I met this very elegant, tall Saudi man who spoke fluent English and was trying to learn Pashto. And we had tea and dinner, and I spent the day with him, and we discussed politics, and he knew I was an American, and he resented the fact that the Saudi family who he was connected to had kind of sold out. They had taken the billions of dollars that we'd given them for their oil, and they'd purchased yachts in the south of France, and were drinking Johnny Walkers and using French whores, and then they'd come back to Saudi Arabia and be extremely pious and go to dunamans and pray 5 times a day. And he just thought it was a double standard, and he saw us as being a big contributing portion of that. And if you look at the statistics, as Americans we make up 4% of the world's population, yet we consume the oil at a rate of 50% or better. So, it was obvious, and it is obvious, that we are
giving these royal families in the Emirates and Saudi Arabia an incredible amount of cash, and it's not really trickling down. So he resented that. He wanted to see the royal family kick the Americans out and go back to a simpler lifestyle.
I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've gotten from my dad going to Afghanistan would be a nomadic way of lifestyle, and that's righteous, to be able to survive off what is around you, what's given to you,
and walk away from,
and not have your security in a brick building or in a shed full of food, but just to be able to take a backpack, which I actually did, and I think all these things were just given to me genetically. I mean, it was just something that was in me to travel and explore, and I took a backpack and tent and a pair of clothes and hitchhiked from, I think, where was it, Kentucky all the way down to Florida, and just lived off,
on the beach.
Yeah, lived in the beach. I slept behind buildings. I'd set up my tent or my sleeping bag. Get woke up at 1 o'clock at night by cops, and I just did it to show to myself that I could live wherever I went. That things would be provided, whether I had to go into a dumpster to find it, or whether I had to find work, for a day to do it, or a lot of times people would just hand it out. So I proved to myself that that rat race to get somewhere is not necessarily the only way of life.
I've taken a lot of criticism from my father because of my drug abuse myself. My boys were exposed to it. Both my boys are thrown in jail for marijuana possession and use, because they steal it from me. It was easy to get, So yeah, I took a lot of heat for that. But I'll say this, I didn't save them. They went to jail. Stevie did almost a year. 8 months, I think it was. John did some hard time. And, now they're hardworking, realize the consequences kind of guys.
Margaret Mead once said that if you're incapable of understanding yourself, your other cultures, then you're not capable of really understanding yourself. And so that always rang in my ears a little bit.
No, I fully agree.
Don't be too closed-minded here. Let's try to see what these other people are doing, because maybe it would have some relevance to your own way of life.
I really never, to myself at least, admitted that I was evolved into an Afghan. I did my best. I lived with them. Smoking the hash made it a little easier to be diseased, but probably what made me go back a few too many times. And the love for the people. You couldn't help. It's such an interesting thing when you have a society that's based on the power of the whole thing as a group. The interchange. There's no money. There's nothing you can buy with your money. There's no power in that sense. It's all family and who's connected and how you're connected. And very powerful thing. A very spiritually powerful thing.
This is the strongest message I got out of my 20 years living with these people. Poverty breeds a humanity that you don't get in a wealthy environment. The only strength these people have is each other. And they cherish that strength as we cherish our gold. And that's one of the reasons I went back. It became a second home. I had an adopted father who took me in like a son, gave me a Muslim name, taught me the prayers, treated me as an equal, treated me as a son.
What is your story, Dad?
What is my story? It's about so many different emotions in me. Love, hate, addiction, the evolution of a life, the evolution of my life. 1967, that was 30, I'm 58, so that's 31 years ago.
Do you have any regrets? You gotta be honest.
Oh, I have a million regrets every day. I think the fact that I didn't play the game the way my brother did and my sister did, didn't establish and accumulate the material wealth that they did, that I live with a lot of insecurities, especially in this world.
So maybe going to Afghanistan is an escape? It's a place you can go and
not be judged,
and not feel
judged.
like you're inferior and that you've been you've wasted your life.
Exactly, and I think one of the motivations for me going back as many times as I did. Yes.
We should have done that interview and sitting down in a room. Not in the car.
But don't we live in a society that's built around the automobile?
Half our time is in these beats.
This is our world.